These two are 2016. They're from Peppers Creek up here on North Cove. There's 11 train tunnels on the tracks, and they use those tunnels to stay cool, stay warm, stay dry.
September 8th, 2018, Kate and I visited Marion, North Carolina to see the Western North Carolina Bigfoot Festival, the largest festival of its kind in the eastern United States. Is Bigfoot real? After listening to story after story from people from all walks of life, I'm much more convinced that he may well be. Enjoy some of the raw footage that we shot at the festival, and maybe you'll have a little more information to form your own opinion.
These here is either a young male or a female. Come out of the creek with 2 tracks, missing a digit on this foot, missing 2 digits on that foot. There's a dead tree limb on the bank that grabbed a hold of to climb up, and then when it got to the top, it put both hands down.
So you're a Bigfoot believer, huh?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen him before yourself?
From a distance. This man's been close.
Both these come out of Uwharrie, North Carolina, and they were in with a 10-mile radius of each other. That right there was 3 miles back off the grid. That right there about 2.5 miles off the grid. That was about a year old. That right there was about 5 months old. And I've been doing research down there for almost 11 years.
Have you seen the Bigfoot yourself?
Yeah, I've seen 2 of them.
Yeah, how close were you? Tell us about that.
The female was probably from here to the Exxon station over there from us, but the male was about 40 feet.
Now, how did it treat you?
Nah, really wasn't no treatment to it. It's just kind of like you saw them, they did what they had to do, and they left. I mean, it really wasn't nothing to it.
Were you hunting when this happened?
We were doing research, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd been out there 3 days. Well, we'd been out there 3 days when we got that right there. And we had been hit out, and it came through. The big male just came through after 3 days being out there. He came up, went up a hill, went down a ridge, and he was gone.
Is this an area known for Bigfoot in Uwharrie?
Oh yeah, big time.
A lot of people have seen him there.
Well, not a lot. You got a few who has, but then you got the people who don't want to talk about it. That's the ones you really get all your stories from, yeah.
Who wants to tell a story? Can somebody come tell me your story?
Behind you, right here.
Alex, Virginia. All right, let's hear your story.
Okay, I've never told this publicly. I've only told just a few people. This happened last June. And as a matter of fact, yesterday on my way down, I was talking to my dad on the phone. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Going to a festival." He said, "Well, what kind of festival?" I said, "Well, you'll laugh." He said, "A Bigfoot festival." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, I got to go tell my story." And he was like, "What story?" I hadn't even told my dad the story, so it's like everyone said, not ashamed, but afraid to tell it because people will laugh at you. Well, I was on a road trip for work. My job that I was doing required me to go to lots of different little small towns and different stores. And I had been on the road for a couple of days. I was south of Richmond, Virginia, and I was wanting to get off the interstate for a while, so I set my GPS to avoid highways. It was taking me on side roads. It took me on a little side gravel road. It was something kind of like a game preserve. I was a few miles back in there, no houses, no one for miles around. Came around the corner, and probably from here to the road right over there, I saw there was a sign there and something standing in front of the sign. My first thought was it was, cool, it's a bear standing up on its hind legs. All this took place within a matter of probably 10 or 15 seconds. But as I was looking at it, it turned to walk away. I was expecting to see it drop on all fours, go off in the woods, but it didn't. It was standing, its shoulders level with the top of the sign, its head above the sign, probably about the height of the middle part of that monument there. Instead of dropping on all fours, it turned and took a couple of steps on its hind legs, and there was a limb hanging in front of it, and it ducked its head, took its hand, moved the limb away, and stepped into the woods. And the last thing I remember seeing, it was, for some reason I had zeroed in on its hand. When it swung its arm back, it had fingers. It was a hand with fingers. It wasn't a paw, it wasn't claws, it was fingers. And when I realized what I was doing, I had just coasted to a stop. And I'm sitting there with my jaw hanging open, like, did I really just see this? Because I've been a Bigfoot fan since I was a kid. I drove on past the sign slowly and looked at it. I drove on by. I got a quarter mile down the road, and I thought, well, I should have looked for a footprint. Turned around, went back, parked in front of the sign, got out of my truck, left the truck running. And I was walking over to the sign. I was simultaneously trying to estimate how tall the sign was and looking for a footprint at the same time. And I heard this noise. It wasn't a growl, it wasn't a scream, it was more like a guttural gibberish type sound. And kind of like the little guy off of the Wild Thornberries, you know, of course, that might have been me, I don't know, scared me to that. But yeah, next thing I knew, I jumped in my truck, I panicked. I jumped in my truck and I took off. And you know, it had to be Bigfoot. So that was it.
And where are you from? I'm originally from Indiana, but I live in Virginia now.
All right, tell us your story.
All right. I was a total skeptic, didn't believe in Bigfoot, nothing like that. Thought it was something storybooks. I was hunting. I was 21 years old. I was sitting at a deer trail, and these deer would go in and out this trail. They go down and get water down this bank. Well, all of a sudden it was I got out there about 2:30 in the afternoon, and then didn't hear nothing, didn't see nothing, and it's getting just about dark. And I was like, well, I need to start heading back in. So I get up and I start to head back home while I'm getting my stuff ready, and this smell comes through the air. And I was like, what in the world is that? Then all of a sudden I hear these sticks popping and cracking. And so I'm thinking, okay, there's gonna be a couple doe coming through there, you know, and then I'm like, okay, hopefully I'll get something. Well, all of a sudden these trees start moving. I'm like, okay, that's not normal, you know. And then they really start shaking, and there's a scream with a growl in it. And I was like, what in the world is that? And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and I've got my gun up. I'm like, well, maybe there's a buck, something going on, you know, maybe two bucks fighting over a doe. And as it came closer, these trees were really shaking. It sounded like stuff was falling behind me. And I got my gun up and I'm looking around, and I'm like, what is that? As it got closer, it started getting more aggressive. Started really shaking trees, snapping them. And that's when I seen it was about 30 yards away. It stepped in between these cedar trees. It was in between 6, 7 foot tall. And it was covered in dark hair. Couldn't tell if it was black or brown because it was dusky. You couldn't hardly see nothing. I was like, what in the world is that? And you're trying to figure out what it is when you're staring at it. It'll give you this, I don't know how to explain it. You're looking at something that don't exist. And you're kind of like, what is it? But you're kind of scared too. And it lets out this big scream. I mean, with a growl in it.
Let's hear it. What does it sound like?
I can't mimic it. It's like a high-pitched scream, but the growl is like it was what, I mean, it sends chills through your body. And I seen the shoulder move, and I seen the hair on it, and this huge stick come flying by my head. And then I seen it coming towards me again, so I took off running. And ever since then, I've been doing nothing but researching Bigfoot.
All right, thank you.
In 1979, I was going on Plank Road below Lincoln. I saw something standing in a field on the right side of the road. This thing was huge. I've seen two. This thing was as tall as I could reach. He went down the little bank and got on he was running like a gorilla on 4 feet across the road, jumped up on the hill on the other side, and then stood back up and kept moving. I saw him well. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was going deer hunting. I've hunted all my life in the woods, hunted and fished, and I've seen all kinds of stuff, but never seen anything like that. My daughter and son-in-law bought some property up in Maine about 6, 7 years ago. We was up there 2 years ago. This was in late August, early September. We were going up the road, me and my daughter, and there was something. Now we got pictures, trail cams all over the place. So, moose, bear, all kind of little creatures. The neighbor down the hill, he's killed bear and deer and stuff. He said he's seen some tracks up there that are huge. Well, this was after I told him what I saw. I actually took a picture on my little telephone with this thing walking across the road. Now, it was up like I am, 2 legs. This road was our driveway. It's a half mile long. This thing walked across the road. Now, I've seen moose and I've seen you know, moves his back, he's about that high. This thing was, I'm gonna estimate 8 to 9 feet tall. And you could see white under its, you could see skin under its hair, but it had a lot of hair on it. Longer arms and actually his legs were shorter than I thought they would. You know, to see this thing, actually see it, and I feel like a fool standing up here. But I actually saw this thing walk across the road when it was 100 yards up the road. I kept on going, got closer up to him. He walked into the woods and stopped maybe 40 yards into the woods. Now, the woods up there is really thick and a lot of balsam pines and stuff. You couldn't see him good. And people say, why didn't you take more pictures or remove it? I didn't think about it. This thing walked over there and I took a picture of it. I deleted it off the camera because everybody thought I was stupid and a fool. But they're real, and I've seen 2 in my lifetime. And I feel very fortunate to have seen one. And I would never kill one. This thing, I couldn't see its face, but it had long hair probably down to its shoulders, but it wasn't very thick. You could see the white skin, whitish skin under his hair, and the rest of him was all hairy. He was kind of a reddish brown in color from, you know, the shoulders on down. So that's my Bigfoot story. And call me stupid, but I've seen this thing.
Thank you.
Anybody that knows me, they know I don't lie and I don't exaggerate about how big a 10-point buck is, or how big a 14-pound bass is. No, that's true.
Thank you. And I was coming from the airport. We had to pick our friend up. It was very late at night in Charlotte. And we went through Shelby and we started coming up Route 226. And it was like 12:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock, something like that. And we're going up the dark mountain roads there. And then the headlights shined on these yellow glowing eyes, and as we got closer, it was like 3.5 to 4 feet tall, reddish brown hair. You know, the yellow eyes was, you know, from the reflection of the headlights, and hairy, flat face. We drove by, it was standing just like this. You know, it was near the edge of the road, and that's what I saw. It's about that high.
Okay. When was that?
That was about 3 years ago. Yeah, between Cleveland and Rutherfordton County.
Okay.
Going north, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I now live in Lowell, North Carolina.
All right. Do you have a Bigfoot story?
I do.
Let's hear it.
My husband and I were driving in Louisville, North Carolina in 1976 on Shallowford Road. We had an argument. I took my 1-year-old baby out of the car and we started walking up the hill towards my sister-in-law's house. And I heard this behind me, and I turned around and I saw this massive, huge thing. It was just kind of rounded in shape. I'm quite tall, and it was much taller than I am. And I just ran with that baby. I haven't told a lot of people, now I have. Because I figured everybody would think I was crazy. But I know what I heard, I know what I smelled, and I know how it made me feel.
All right. Thank you so much.
I'm pretty amazed by this festival about how many people are here sort of sharing this experience and speculating as to the existence of Bigfoot. There's a lot of people here that believe he exists, and I gotta say, I think I'm one of them, because I've seen some things, some evidence here today, and I've heard stories, I've written about it, I've read about it, and there's just too much talk. There's too many stories that are going around to make it seem like, well, you know, maybe there's something there.
Well, I moved back to North Carolina, where my family's from, but I lived most of my life out in Washington State, in Seattle. And I had one of those Class C motorhomes, and my girlfriend at the time and we went to Crater Lake, Oregon. And if you've never been to Crater Lake, it's pretty spooky just to begin with. And it's a volcano that exploded, and now it's just a really extremely deep lake. And we went there in April, I think it was, and there wasn't anybody there. In the campground, we were the only ones there that night. And so the motorhome is here. We had a little fire pit going outside, and then about 100 yards or so, there was the start of a tree line of forest. And as we were sitting there, out by the fire, we just felt like something was watching us. It was just a very creepy, something's watching us. And so we decided to take the party inside. It just got too spooky. So we're inside the motorhome and having a good time, and we decided it was time to go to bed, and got in bed and had the windows cracked open, and there was just this awful smell. And next thing I know, the motorhome from side to side is rocking back and forth. Something is pushing against it. Now, I can't say that I saw Bigfoot, but I smelled him. And when I went outside the next morning, I saw these handprints much higher than it could have been a bear. So some Bigfoot was pushing that damn motorhome, rocking it to the point where the tires on the left side were coming up off the ground, going off on the other side, almost pushing the damn thing over. And so that's my story.
Where are you from?
I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, let's hear your story.
All right, well, I grew up in a little town called Jeanette, Pennsylvania, about a half an hour outside of Pittsburgh, and it was kind of almost like this. The hills weren't quite as big, but we grew up playing in the woods all the time. And I remember when I was a kid, that was right around the time that photograph, I think, was out in California, got real popular with the Bigfoot. So as kids, we would go in the woods and dig out Bigfoot things, try to tease our, friends and fool our friends. But so that, I always played in the woods. And a few years later on, when I was probably about 12, 13 years old, we got to the point where we were always exploring the woods, building cabins and doing stuff like that. And there was this one area that had a creek that we'd go down and play along, catch crayfish and do all kind of stuff. And this one night, it was a little bit later, probably late September, early October. It was getting darker earlier. Sun gets real bright, that time of year when the sun goes down. So I was down in this creek bed doing what I was doing, playing around, and just had this feeling that there was something else there, None of my buddies was with me or nothing, but so, and then it got this smell, and it sounded this really bad smell, so I thought like there was a dead animal somewhere around. And again, keep playing, and I'm walking, and I'm noticing, if I'm walking, the sticks crunching underneath me were a little bit more than just my noise should have been. So I come down, like I said, there's this creek bed, and I start up on this other side of the hill, and again, it just felt real weird, like hair was standing up on the back of my neck, like something was watching me. And so I start walking up this hill a little bit, and I saw something move, and I like turned and ran away. And then I thought, man, you're being crazy, nothing's out here. So I turned around and looked again, and right at the top of the next ridge, and the sun was coming this way, something turned and kind of looked at me like this, and it was up tall, so I can't tell exactly how big it was, but it looked enormous. And I could tell I couldn't really see any features because the sun was blacking it out, but it looked like, long hair and everything like that. So then I did take off like heck and got the heck out of there and never came back again. So
all right, thank you.
Charlie.
And what's your name?
Madeline.
Madeline.
We go to school at Montreat College.
Montreat College. That's where they go to school.
Yes.
So who's going to tell the story?
Kind of both of us.
Okay.
We
all
go
right.
to some, so we both.
Well, you'll just have to cue me on when to move the mic, okay?
All right.
All right.
We'll let her start and I'll take over. We got two mics.
All right. Here we go.
Well, it was our freshman year, and we decided to come down here and hike at Tom's Creek Falls. And so we were at the waterfall, and then we were like, well, we want to go up to the top level of it. So we kept walking on that trail, and there's like, it goes off in 2 ways after you cross that creek. And so we just went towards the one on the left, and as we were walking, it just felt like something was just narrowing in on us. Like, I don't know, it just felt like something was circling us the whole time. And then that's when Charlie saw like something over in the woods.
Yeah, so we just kind of stopped. I mean, it was getting late in the day anyway, and so we just looked around, and I don't know, like she said, we just had that feeling that there had been something there. And I mean, it's just the 2 of us. We were freshmen in college at the time, and so I don't know, I glanced off into the woods a little bit and just kind of saw a dark figure, looked real hairy and everything. At first, I kind of thought it was a bear, but it was pretty high up near the tree line. So the branches were probably 8-9 feet off the ground, and I mean, it was moving right along near the branches. So, I mean, I didn't want to say, hey, I think it's Bigfoot, but I was like, hey, there's definitely something there. It's big, it's hairy. And so,
and then I was just gone. I took off down that mountain. I said, bye. I said, you can stay.
She runs track, so she just left me. She runs faster than me, everything. And I took off after, and our boyfriends are over there, and we don't go hiking without them now. So we always make sure got
But we actually went back to school and told everybody, and everybody's like, all these freshmen, they just try and get attention. So, I mean, nobody believed us. But
yeah, so we thought, we come here, we share our story, somebody's going to at least believe.
We got these socks in Black Mountain. So, yeah, we thought this would be a cool spot to tell our story.
But yeah, it's definitely a unique experience for sure.